Klaus and I first met at a business course in 2015 in a beautiful retreat center south of Whistler, BC. He lives in Burnaby, British Columbia, which is part of Greater Vancouver. Klaus has worked over the years with a variety of clients who have struggled with their experience of isolation, loneliness, stress, depression, anxiety, emptiness, and feeling lost. Klaus helps his clients move through their life situation where they are struggling, feeling stuck, and without direction to become clear, confident, purposeful, and vision-driven people. His credentials include master's degree in clinical psychology, clinical member of BC Association of Clinical Counsellors, clinical member of the Satir Institute of the Pacific, coaching and mentoring certificate from Satir Global Network, and leads a weekly men's mastermind group. Once again, thanks so much for being here today, Klaus, and I will pass the mic over to you.
All right. Thank you, Scott, for that introduction. That sounds amazing. I want to meet this person, as I said last time. So take two here, as some of you might know. So, I wanted to say, first of all, thank you to Scott for, creating and hosting this kind of event and inviting all these, amazing people that can get to share their wisdom, their experiences, their insights, and whatever gifts that they have in this, in offering for this Yana event. And I love that name, Yana. It sounds really cool. And I got to listen to some of the other speakers, and I was just, enthralled and amazed and drawn in. And I thought it was just so much fun to listen to. So thank you for that. And so today, in my part in this, is I thought I'd share some perspectives on mental health and wellness, both professionally and, if we got time, a personal view. And when I thought about this, because my title is From Darkness to Light. And starting, when I started as a therapist, I worked for many, many years with at-risk teenagers in an alternate program setting. And when it comes to mind is that these students, this was like their last chance effort at any kind of education, formal education in the school system to graduate from high school. And they came in, and I would say most of them, if not all, were in a kind of a dark place in one way or another. And a lot of it can come from, I'll just keep it simple here, systems came to mind. That their experience in the school system didn't fit for them. And when that happens, their internal system starts to try to make meaning of that. And that starts to go into, I'm not smart enough, I'm not good enough, I can't do anything well. And that all starts to play havoc, and it starts to dim their light, and it gets darker and darker. And I'm not saying that the school system is good or bad or positive, negative, but the system didn't fit for the way they learned. That was the external system, and then their internal system, trying to cope with it, began to really dim their light, shut down. They became darker and darker on the inside, and they, suffered depression, anxiety, and all sorts of self-esteem, self-worth challenges came up. And when they entered our program, my role was a therapist, and we had a teacher, we had a family worker, we had an outdoor specialist, and like as a team, we connected with these students, and in a way that tapped into their light, wherever their light was inside. And if they're alive, you have a light, okay? And we work with them, as a therapist, I work with them in tapping into that light and sort of learning how to expand it by asking, the right kind of questions and holding the space, because I knew that light was there. They may not see it, and a lot of my clients may not see it, but I know it's there. It's not like they're not capable of having a successful life in whatever way it fits for them, but I know it's there. And working with them and kind of cutting through the layers. We've all heard the metaphor, the onion layer and all that. It's very similar, just cutting through the layers. And as I hold that space of compassion and acceptance, they experience that in themselves. It starts to connect with their own light. And then when they start experiencing themselves in a system that supports their uniqueness and supports their light begins to expand. They begin to take risks in positive directions. And a lot of times they start actually, like, not that the outcome is, if you do your homework, you're a good student, but they start doing homework because they feel better about themselves. Before it was like, why bother? It's I can't do it. It doesn't matter what I do. But a lot of them would actually start doing homework better. They would show up to class. They began to get into a community, and they began to shine their light in very unique ways. So that was a beautiful process that we would go through 1 or 2 years with these students, and especially in the outdoor setting. We would go 5, 10-day kayaking trips, canoe trips, ski trips, hiking trips. And in the outdoors, we would strip everything away, electronics and that, and they would just really get in touch with who they are on the inside. And Mother Nature is beautiful for that, because Mother Nature doesn't judge. Mother Nature just is what it is. And they could just tap into that inside connectedness in themselves, in Mother Nature, and they began to glow. You could see them after like 5 days, 6 days, 7 days, this glow would start coming up. So beautiful to see. And that was an example of darkness to light. And in my private practice side, an example, I worked with a client, I'm not giving names or details here, but just the idea is he came, there's a man, he was depression and anxiety. And he came to me like, okay, I got this depression and anxiety, that's my diagnosis. Can you take that away from me? Let's fix that. And we started exploring, and real simple, he went to school, he got a degree in engineering, and he worked as an engineer. Nothing wrong with that, except he was miserable. And if you think about it, if you wake up every day miserable, going to a job you hate, what's that going to do to your life? What's that going to do to your mental health? But, part of his mind is like, well, I went to school for this. This is a good job. I should be happy. People look up to me in this and that way. But he was miserable. And we started exploring and asking these questions. I was tapping into like, well, what lights you up? Like, what's going on inside? And it ended up, he really had a passion for something completely different as an entrepreneur. Completely different. And as we started to expand that concept and those ideas, and he started tapping into what would that be like to do that? And I said, so what happens to your anxiety and depression when you start to expand what really lights up what's your calling here? And he goes, well, yeah, my depression it goes down, it goes away. I said, all right, that doesn't mean you quit your job tomorrow, because you got bills and mortgages and rent and all that. I get that, but start shifting and taking steps and accepting this is where you really go. This is what lights you up. This is what expands your light. And if we expand the light, then darkness has to get smaller. You can't expand light and darkness doesn't get bigger. It has to get smaller. And so that was a shift from light of darkness into light in his life. And a lot of times working with people, that's often what the process is tapping into their light, wherever they're at, and it's there. If you're alive, it's there. And just kind of expanding that with, with the care, compassion, acceptance. Sometimes we have to unravel trauma and heal. That every time you heal, go in and breathe in some love and care for the parts of us that we don't want to look at. It begins to expand that light more and more. And I mean, I've seen people just all of a sudden the light bulb goes off, like they just start to shine, and they go, wow, I don't no longer holding on to the dark baggage. We can let that darkness go. And when you let darkness go, is another way of allowing the light in. So I'll ask them, I said, they feel like, wow, I'll let this go now. I feel empty inside in a good way. And I said, what do you want to fill it with? What do you want to put there? Because you got a choice. And they may come up with symbols. They may come up with colors. They may come up with a word, prosperity or excitement or flowers or forest or a golden light, whatever they want to put there, they have a choice. And that, again, begins to expand their light. And then they start making shifts in their life. So again, that shift from darkness to light. And that can be with all sorts of mental illness. I find out mental illness often is because the person has gotten into systems where they're no longer allowed to shine their light in the way they would like to. And it's unraveling those systems and opening up and new possibilities to move into light. All right, I got the 1 minute mark about a minute ago.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate all your sharing, Klaus. And, I can personally say that Klaus is a good friend of mine, and I'm actually in the men's group that he currently leads. And yeah, for those of you, he's incredible at what he does. And for those of you who resonate with Klaus as a person and would be curious to learn a little bit more about what he does in terms of connecting with him, I'll post some links below this video. And once again, thank you so much for being here today, Klaus, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Scott, for allowing me to come back here and do this again. And just thank you for all the work you're doing, Scott. Really appreciate that too.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you.
Bye-bye.